Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Hunt Club podcast, product briefing show. As you can see, we've got Martin back. If you haven't viewed the previous conversation we had with Martin on entity prioritization versus event detection was fantastic. Encourage you to check that one out. Um, we asked him back to talk about a question we often get from customers around threat intel feeds. Right. So I think Vectra AI, we pride ourselves on our AI detections, right, Martin? Our ability to detect attacker behavior across network identity and cloud using AI. But we understand that customers have made investments in threat intel feeds. So I wanted to bring Martin back and kind of have a conversation about two kind of areas of exploration. How to leverage threat intel feeds in the Vectra AI platform, and why would a customer do that, right? What do they get out of doing that? So, Martin, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm assuming everyone's met you on our previous podcast we did together. So why don't you reintroduce yourself in case they haven't seen that episode, and then we can kind of get into it.
It's a good segue into watching the other one, though, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, for those that haven't seen the previous podcast, so my name's Martin Baker. I'm one of the senior security consulting analyst engineers at Vectra. Again, I've been at Vectra for just over 4 years now. And again, things like the threat feed and the prioritization and some of the other podcasts that are actually coming up. These are a number of questions and things that customers ask on a regular basis. So hopefully we'll be able to answer these all over the series as we go. So
This
yeah.
is awesome. Fantastic. So let's, I'm a big Simon Sinek guy. So why don't we start with why? Let's start with why, Martin, and then we'll kind of get into the how.
Yeah.
In conversations you've had with customers and whatnot, what is that why? Why the combination of threat intel feeds with the Vectra AI platform?
Yeah, so well, firstly, it's in the platform, and I'll run through a very quick demo on how to actually do that very shortly. More importantly, if it's in the platform and it's free, um, to actually take use of it, and this goes on to the prioritization that we were talking about in the last podcast as well, about actually having entity prioritization. So to actually enhance the signal for your entities, mainly hosts, especially for threat feeds, you've got the ability to kind of like escalate that detection even quicker or escalate the prioritization even quicker with some additional metrics that you can actually put in there, such as the threat feed, what we've got now. One of the main things that I see for threat feeds is actually proactive detection. So this is going to be allow you to be more proactive rather than reactive. So you're going to be continuously monitoring for your threat intelligence, whether it's your threat feeds, your security teams, or even spotting emerging threats, such as reading things like the register or any other, tech or cybersecurity feeds. So actually having indicators of compromise, whether it be IP addresses or domains, etc. So actually uploading these into the platform, but more importantly as well. So we've got our proactive. So we've read an article, for example, in the register, and we can see that there's whether it's malware, whether it's phishing, or just IP addresses that we've got. So we can put those into the platform and look for things going forward in the future. Now again, this is a sell for a future podcast as well when we talk about metadata, which we will cover threat feeds when we talk about the metadata, on future ones as well. But the ability to actually have proactive threat detection is more important, but also as well improving your threat visibility. So not just reliant upon the AI and the learning and the
Mm-hmm.
models that are actually in the current Vectra platform, and also as well actually giving you contextual awareness. So they're not just going to provide you, the raw data of the IP addresses and things, because having these detections that trigger, maybe it could be for, a provided threat feed. I'm not going to mention, any vendors that sell the threat feeds, but I think we all know that there are a large number of them. But the ability to actually create your own as well, which is pretty simple to do. Just uploading a Sticks 1.2 file actually into the Vectra platform, which I can run through a demo if you want, Mark.
Yeah,
Like,
that'd be fantastic.
shouldn't take too long at all. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, well, first of all, I'm going to share my screen because that always helps when you do a demo. There we go. Just checking you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Yep, that's always good. Cool. So there is a knowledge base article for this, and this is KB 1107. You probably won't be able to read this page because obviously the font will be quite small. But what we can see on here, and it's definitely worth having a read of this before you just go ahead and start uploading some IOCs, because there are certain indicators that are, say, accepted or well, what the system will actually allow. So the main one which we're actually going to be looking at here will be IP addresses and also domain names as well. Now I've got a couple of examples that I'm going to give you very shortly, but as a very, very high level for the threat feeds, okay, we're looking at a maximum feed duration of 90 days. We're able to specify what this is going to be, whether it's going to be exfiltration, whether it's going to be command and control, etc. Now, the ability to set your threat feed duration, up to a maximum of 90 days, it's kind of important to remember this because obviously we've got some IP addresses or domains of some compromised websites or potentially compromised. Now, it's always worth remembering that, what's compromised today may not be compromised tomorrow, but what's compromised, not compromised today could be compromised tomorrow. So it's always worth remembering that once we have these IP addresses and domains, the attackers, all these phishing sites, they've kind of been rumbled, as it were. So by the time we've got this information, kind of like the attackers will also know that they've been rumbled. So it's kind of like out of date already, but it's
Yeah.
always worth just remembering that you always need to have, again, being proactive. So having a threat feed for 90 days, this is my personal thing. What I do, I normally put this to about 45 days because it's a kind of reminder for me if I don't do an automation for this, kind of like go away, grab all the latest information if it's going to be a manual task, this, okay? And the main, well, say the other takeaway for this as well will be the maximum files that are allowed in here. So we're talking up to 100,000 observables in one sticks file, and the file size limit is 100 megabytes. Okay, again, 90 days, and the sticks observables that we can see on here. We're going to, when I run through a demonstration in a minute, we're going to actually be able to see how many we can put into the platform, and we're going to see the observables that are in here. Now, to do this, we're going to use the Respond UX platform, which we've got just here. Okay, so we've got the demo environment, which we've been using in the last podcast, and we'll be using it in future ones as well. Now, to create a custom threat feed, first of all, well, we need one of a couple of things. We need permission for the Vectra platform, which is kind of like self-explanatory. We also need some IOCs, and the IOCs, we're going to get these converted into a Sticks 1.2 file format, which is an XML. We then need to actually create the threat feed itself. So what I'll do is I'll just run through a quick demonstration now. And for this, I'm just going to put this as a threat feed of test or demo or whatever it may be. When you do put a threat feed name on here, the amount of times that, because I do a lot of testing and demonstrations, the word test is actually used quite often. I'm not surprised it's not, an autocomplete on here. What I advise people to do here is actually put what revision this is, where these threat feeds have come from. You could just call this, threat feed -1, maybe revision A, and possibly put the date of when it was actually uploaded on here as well. To give the analysts, is it the temp? It is the temp today. To give the analysts a bit of context onto what threat feed this is. So if they need to go away and find out some more, this IP address has, triggered a detection, but, so what? How bad is this? What we're looking at. So give it a meaningful name. And in this case, we've just called it threat feed 1 alpha just for demonstration.
Sure.
We're then going to look at the indicator type, what this is. So we've got on here 5 indicator types, whether it's anonymization, C2, exfiltration, malware artifacts, or watch lists. Okay. Most of the indicators that I get handed or I upload for customers will be the command and control variant. We then got our certainty on here, whether this is going to be a high, whether it's going to be a medium or low. Now, this comes into the, how certain are you actually for the threat feeds that you actually have? I've seen before where, again, like I said in the last one, I've seen some very, very good things and I've seen some very, very bad things. And what I say now is, again, this is a sell for, the API going zero to hero. There was a customer that I dealt with once to system, and one of their threat feeds had in there, and it was just simply forward slash as part of their threat feed. It was just forward slash. Unfortunately, there are a lot of things that computers do that use forward slash. In a very, very short space of time, nearly every single one of their hosts in their platform had a detection, and it was in one of the quadrants, or they would have been unprioritized for a single detection. However, that's not a good thing to happen. So using the API, we were able to clean up and we were able to actually search for these particular ones. But more importantly, the main takeaway from this is how certain you are that the IOCs that you have are actually of high fidelity. Again, I've seen paid threat feeds before that have got Microsoft IP addresses in them, and also Microsoft domains in them. These things do slip through the net sometimes, and it's definitely worth just having a plan in place as well, that when things do blow up, and you do have a large number of detections, looking at the detection types, looking at the detection categories, and finding some correlation about, well, if we've got 50,000 detections that have triggered for the detection type of threat intel match, then it's highly likely that we've got some bad threat intelligence in there. So the certainty on here will definitely apply, with the, whereabouts these have come from. And if you're going to put one or two IP addresses in here, and you've got these maybe from, again, the register or SANS or whatever it may be, pick the relevant one that you've got on here. We then got the category of detection as well. So we've got command and control, exfil, and lateral movement. And this will depend on the type of IOC that you actually see, or that you've got these IOCs from. And again, in this case, I'm just going to leave this as command and control. So you remember I said earlier that we were talking 90 days with the maximum. So if I create an open here, we'll see a red banner up here. It's got an invalid fields. Okay, so just to show to you, it is 90 days. That's the maximum. But in this case, I'm just going to put it to 45. So we're going to create and open this one. And then we can see that we've got the option to upload a sticks file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my local sticks file that I've got on here. And I'm just going to simply select this one where I've got testing. Okay, and I'm going to select open on here. This is now going to look through the XML file that we got, and we can see that we've actually got two observables in here, command and control, certainty high, and when they're going to be expiring. And then simply click save. Tick tock, tick tock, and now it's done. Yep, that's as simple as how it is to upload a threat feed. If you decide that you want to still keep this threat feed name, but you want to upload this maybe tomorrow or next week with some more observables that are in here, you simply just select a different sticks file, point to the file that you've got these new IOCs in, and again, you just click open, and then you click save on here. Exactly the same as what we did to actually create it. Now, there will be times, and again, I've seen this on a number of occasions before, even in my own testing environment, where I've actually put some, some poor IOCs. Apparently, 8.8.8.8 is, that's not a very good indicator.
Mm-hmm.
If you do come across at any time where you've got some threat feed that's been uploaded in the platform, you've got one of a couple of things that you need to do, like kind of straight away, depending on how many detections have triggered for 100% benign websites. I'd highly advise you, the first instance would be to remove this threat feed that you've got on here. Okay, so either delete the threat feed or update the threat feed with the offending IP address removed, the one that is definitely a false positive on here. But we need to stop these detections from coming in as soon as possible, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of escalations. You're going to have a lot of prioritized entities, and again, that's not high fidelity, signaling, for again 8.8.8.8 as an example. So in this instance, I'd simply delete this one, and I would delete the threat feed. Again, it's worth noting that you don't have to sit here and do this manually. There's this thing called an API, which saves a lot of time just by programmatically doing this. So it can pull down either through MISP or whatever it may be. Then it can upload your it can update your threat feeds locally, contact via API into the Vectra platform, and it can just do this all autonomously without a user even having to kind of like log into the platform, and go through the stages of what we've done just now.
Awesome.
I think Mark, even you'd be able to do that.
Yeah, even me, a lowly marketing person would be able to do that. So, but I
We should
probably would need
put that
help
for a
with the
test.
API. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
exactly.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. Did you have any further questions with regards to the threat feeds, Mark, or with the usage of them? Any further hints and tips that you think that
Yeah,
would be kind of
you touched on three things. When we went back and I asked you why, you said, "Hey, first thing, it's already built into our platform. It's free." It's like,
yeah,
here's three reasons why. It's already built into our platform. It's free. You
yeah,
just use it today. Two, you can take a more proactive approach to threat detection. There's a lot of discussion in the market with the likes of Gartner and others around preemptive security, right? How do we get more proactive and discover threats before they actually turn into, a potential attack or an attack? So proactive security. And then the third you touched on was faster prioritization of entities.
yeah.
Is that something you can demo, or do we want to tee that up on how threat feeds combined with our AI detections and attribution, and then how does that all work together? That potentially could be another podcast topic we want to jump
Yeah.
into.
Well, that'll definitely be a kind of like talking point for now, but we could definitely do something in the future. But
Okay.
when it comes to, we're going to have faster, prioritization. Now, the key word when we talk about threat intelligence feeds is IOCs. So this is an indicator of compromise and not a compromise.
Yep.
Okay. So again, as I said earlier, an IP address today could be valid and tomorrow it could be compromised. Okay. But as soon as the IP addresses are out in the wild or domains, it is an indicator that something's happened. Now, having that kind of like early warning where we have a detection and someone maybe clicks on a phishing link or
Yeah.
something happens and this is actually a valid IP or a malicious IP, we've actually got a kind of like faster detection, through the prioritization, but also as well, we've got the ability to actually look, going into our SOAR, our SIEM or whatever it may be, to actually look for, higher rates of detections that have triggered in the platform. So although we've spoken about being entity centric, you can use your SOAR, your SIEM, whatever it may be, to look, have we all of a sudden got an increase in, detections for, for threat intelligence? If we do, what is the reason behind it? That could be mitigation, to remove the offending IP or domain from our list, but also as well, if this is a true positive, it gives us, faster response,
Yeah.
using our security tools when we integrate with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we say faster prioritization, we mean earlier detection and prioritization of that entity potentially under attack. The
Yeah.
earlier you know, the earlier you can stop it, et cetera. Again, we talked about this in our previous podcast about latency. How do we remove latency, right? Make it easy for the analyst. Okay, fantastic. So three whys. You heard it from Martin, everybody. Why number one, it's free. It's in our platform. It's built in. Um, Gets you onto a path of more preemptive, proactive approach to threat detection, which we know everybody wants, right? And third, detecting, prioritizing attacks earlier in their progression. We all need to do that. It's like, what's CrowdStrike's number from infiltration till lateral movement? It's 48 minutes now on average. We got to detect and prioritize faster. So, three big reasons why to use threat feeds with the Vectra AI platform. Martin, thanks for the demo. It's pretty darn easy to use, it looks like, even for a
Yeah.
guy like me. So I appreciate that. And we're going to queue up a few other ones. You had dropped a couple. I love the API from zero to hero. That's a podcast Martin and I are doing coming up. So stay tuned for that, everybody. We've got some cool Respond UX investigation podcasts coming up, and a topic that's near and dear to my heart, using metadata, the power of metadata and use cases for metadata. So again, awesome. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you again, Martin. Always insightful, always helpful. I hope our listeners and viewers find it as well. Comment, share, subscribe. This is Woj on the Hunt Club podcast. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you, everyone. Speak to you all again soon. Thanks,
That's
Matt.
great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.